Just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if it's sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right, this is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 128. Mike Biseglia, Alex Vanessowitz. Former Nets guard Mike James has some interesting comments that Kevin Durant told him, and the New York Knicks might have some tampering charges. Who saw that happening? Alex, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, Mike. I'm doing great. So if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you download the episodes on all podcast apps. That's the best way to help out the podcast. Download. Also give us 5 stars on Apple if you can and a comment, but download. That's most important. And subscribe or follow, whatever it is. YouTube also, all podcast apps, et cetera, et cetera. And we have exciting news. Let's get right to it. The big announcement. We are now sponsored by our president at Dolan_J_Trump he is at DolanJTrump.com. So here is his little spot. Over the past 4 years, President Dolan J. Trump has delivered for Knicks fans like never before, repealing the triangle, rebuilding our depleted defense, and constructing the league's biggest salary cap space force. And now here's your chance to show your support for the MKGA movement with the official Dolan J. Trump line of merchandise. Visit DolanJTrump.com now for the hottest t-shirts and more design personality by your favorite president. Plus, get 20% off your order when you use the promo code BWF for Bad Weather Fans. That's BWF. Visit DolanJTrump.com now and help make the Knicks great again, or help make Knicks great again. So if you like any t-shirts, go on there and buy some. Mets shirts, anything. Yeah.
You think he's going to make Nets shirts now because this is a Nets Knicks podcast?
Kind of has to.
Is he going to have to? Right. Is he going to have to make? I'm very interested if we can join some of the marketing pitch meetings with his full team.
His cabinet.
Got introduced to some of his team members. Really, deep, insightful people. I'm really excited to get to work with them and some of his cabinet members and see what we can come up with. I'm sure we can. Very slick shirts, by the way. Though Giants, Jets, other stuff besides
the Nets,
the other team in New York. So that's kind of cool.
Mets, Yankees. I haven't seen any Net stuff, but we're gonna have to get it. We're gonna wear some shirts on some episodes. We're gonna have a little space on the site, and it's gonna be fun. We're gonna get intertwined and have fun. So promo code BWF and support our president at Dolan_J_Trump.
And I'll give him a public apology. I put out a tweet a few weeks ago where I put together a list of all the guests that have been on Bad Weather Fans, and I forgot to include him on there. I know
he was our first guest too.
I know,
episode 2,
and I'll take everybody behind the scenes on that. He was late because he was walking his dogs.
So we did episode 1 by
Not
waiting.
Bitter about that 2 years later.
Yeah, we did episode 1 waiting. We're like, let's just do one, and then we did it, and then
I was nervous to talk to him too. I was nervous because we
didn't know him yet. Yeah.
I mean, now I know he's still a big celebrity, BWF promo code, but I was a little nervous. I didn't know the man that was
behind the curtain.
Still a little nervous when I, talk, but not quite as nervous. When I was like,
he's a great guy. Really, if you know him in person, he's a great guy. I like him. He's a good guy.
I like him. I don't know if he's a great guy. Let's okay. I'm just kidding.
He did charge Amy Dash. He did charge Amy Dash full price after getting legal advice when we had Amy Dash on the show. She went after him.
Buy the merch, okay?
Buy the merch. Promo code BWF, 20% off. Yes, on all website, DolanJTrump.com. Okay, Mike.
We have a great guest coming up as well on this episode. Josh, aka Uncle Foolio. He's the host of the Kontroversy on the Nothing But Knicks network. So check him out full time. But we have a great interview coming up with Josh. So hang tight for that in a little bit. Him and Alex seem to go at it a lot on Nick topics, and this will complete the home and home, which I would recommend. It's in the show notes as well. Check out Alex on Josh's podcast, which was a lot of fun. But Uncle Foolio, he'll be joining us in a couple of minutes. All right, the Knicks had some tampering issues. Mike James made news. You don't remember who he is, Knick fans? I know you do.
Who?
Probably do.
Mike James.
Yeah, right. He was the Nets point guard last season. Played pretty well, actually. Was a nice addition to the team, and he became very tight with Kevin Durant. And then he went on, and I'll get the podcast name in a second because I do want to give credit there, because if we make news, I want to make sure people give us credit. So I think that is important. But basically went on there saying that Kevin Durant and him became very close throughout the season, blah, blah, blah. And then this year, Mike James not on the team. They made this little bet thing going on that whoever's team was eliminated first would have to go see his team in the playoffs. Mike James not playing in America. So, of course, as this we all went, we saw Kevin Durant at Mike James playoff games because, well, the Nets got eliminated early. And Mike James revealed on the podcast that, well, that Kevin Durant sort of saw this coming because he didn't really believe in his team. And I'll read the direct quote, which is extremely depressing. Quote, Kevin Durant called me before the playoffs start. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be there at your playoff game in like a couple weeks. We're fitting to lose, which this was on the Players Choice podcast. So basically revealing Kevin Durant no leadership skills and basically saying that this team sucks. We're not going to be good enough to win.
Yeah.
I know the deal. So we'll see in a couple weeks, which is just depressing to hear out loud that he would say that and see that. And this is where it bothers me, not because I think if you know your team's not good enough, but somehow like his body language in these games, conceding and knowing that they were going to lose, that's the part that annoyed me. Almost like, do you remember when LeBron James and the Cavs lost game 1 in the series versus the Warriors, the J.R. Smith play? LeBron had this epic NBA finals. After that game, it was like, your team has no chance. And I think after that game 1 loss, I got bad body language vibes from Durant and the Nets. And that's the part that gets me kind of angry. Not that, okay, you don't think this team's where it could be. I get it. I don't think it was either. But that you're deflated by a loss and conceding a victory too kind of paints the picture that maybe that was happening behind the scenes. And then makes more sense. I want to get my ass out of here and go to a different place because I'm not feeling this vibe. Kind of connect the dots. And you can see that he wasn't happy towards the end of last season.
Yeah. And it just sounds like a team that got swept, because usually when you get swept, you give up. You give up at a certain point. You know, sometimes you're just overwhelmed, like the Nets versus the Jordan Bulls. Like that's a different story. You went in there, no shot, and you knew it because it was just they were playing one of the greatest teams of all time. But if you're going into a series and you know you're going to lose, or even just because you got punched in the mouth and then you're going to fold and then eventually demand a trade, it's just, is that the guy you really want? I mean, I understand he's Kevin Durant, but you know, this guy is quitting before the series, or we don't know when the quote happened. So it could have happened after game 1. Like you said, that's disheartening. A big loss. They could have said it after we were down 3-0.
He said before the playoffs start.
Oh, before the playoffs. Oh, okay. So that's my
I don't know I don't know if that was a day
before the play-in, before the series, whatever. But it was before the Celtics series. Before the Celtics series. So that's a team that's going to get swept. That's going to lose. Because, you know, that shows you had that heartbreaking loss, the last second layup, which was crazy. But nobody thought the series was over after that game. You were just like, oh, my God, I want to shoot myself. You as a Nets fan was like, that's an all timer. You know what I mean? And, you know, I laughed and celebrated, you know, but, you know, that's a team that's going to get swept. And that's something that I wouldn't want in my organization. That's not the kind of stuff I want. And I know it's Kevin Durant, but like, you're going to show up and you're going to tell me that you lost already. And I think James is kind of talking out of school. I don't think he was supposed to say that out loud, but maybe Kevin Durant doesn't give a shit anymore now that he demanded a trade. And he's just trying to make sure they trade him. You know, I don't know. You know what I mean? This is kind of like this weird, like, you know connecting the dots kind of a thing. Yeah. Like,
and you know what it says to me? And I hate to say this, but like with the Charles Barkley comments about, you know, somebody's, you know, there's the bus driver, right? And then there's people that are just on the bus.
The passengers. Yeah.
The passengers. And it gets that feeling to kind of prove to Charles's point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you would ever hear that from somebody, even if they thought their team wasn't as good. You wouldn't hear that from guys that just had full belief in their roster and just would never utter some stuff like that. Is just disheartening, because I think after seeing game 1, I mean, Nets had it in them, blew that, and then just had no chance. It was like it steamrolled after that. Remember game 2, they were up in the third quarter. At the end of the first half, they had a chance to be up 20. This idea that the team was terrible, according to Durant, not thinking they had it. is interesting. And I want to give credit to RUFan130 on Twitter, rebuilds SZN, the name, thinking maybe at that point he knew Ben Simmons wasn't coming back. And then was just like, saw it like he was like, oh, Simmons isn't coming back. We got no chance. And maybe, again, playing connect the dots with the Nets. But at that point, there was something to that where Durant gave up when he knew Simmons didn't really have a chance to be on the roster.
Maybe, but also, we all said it. I said it. There was still an avenue where the Nets could get hot with Kyrie and Durant, two of the greatest players in the NBA, or the best players in the NBA, two of the greatest players of all time on the roster. That if they got hot, then they can make a run. I mean, maybe not win the title, but they can win a round or two. And it's just, how do you go into the Celtics series knowing you're going to lose? Maybe he just had that kind of respect for Tatum and Brown and Marcus Smart and Udoka and Ime Udoka, but at the same time, that's just a loser mentality. And that's the kind of guy that's going to jump from team to team when things get tough. And that's just the kind of person he is. And it's kind of player he's been in his career. He can only play with superstars. And if he doesn't like it, he leaves. And that's just, it's sad,
And when we move forward, though, if he's on the roster and he's got Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons, it still doesn't mean that all of that true still doesn't mean that it guarantees the next season they don't win. And bottom line is, where I'm going with that is, it's a disappointing quote. It's disappointing. It's not disappointing in the idea that he's honest. I think from any standpoint, media members, not that we're really media members, but anybody would like the honesty in hearing that, but also at the same time, disappointing as a Nets fan to know that. And then I love the follow-up question in that interview, though, was Kevin Durant on a how did he fly? I mean, there's so many questions from there. Like, wait a minute, Kevin Durant said the Nets didn't have a chance. Why? What did he like? What was the problem?
Next follow-up is, did he fly domestic?
And I didn't hear the full interview, so maybe I'm wrong there.
Not domestic.
I should listen to the whole thing, and that could be asked, and now quotes are just kind of thrown over the internet. But just disappointing on the Nets stuff. And Kevin Durant still on the Nets.
But do you give a shit that he flew commercial? Like, who gives a shit? Flew commercial and then private back. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, how is that the follow-up question? I don't understand. I don't want to kill the guy, but come on.
Knicks, no Donovan Mitchell.
Not yet, at least. Yeah.
And tampering charges coming. They're going to lose They're going to lose all those 7 first-round draft picks and can't make the Donovan Mitchell trade.
They'll probably lose a future second. They're investigating them, and it's really because the Knicks are stupid. I mean, honestly, or you're that reckless. It's either one. You either don't care about the consequences or you're that reckless. It's just why, it's a second round pick in the future that you're probably going to get. But why did you put yourself in this position? Every NBA trade, every NBA signing is announced. A signing, I should say, is announced at 6:01. Some are even announced before the deadline. Like when the Nets signed Kyrie and Durant and DeAndre Jordan, it was before the deadline. But there was no tampering charges for the Nets, but it happened before because everybody knows. But the Knicks are that stupid that they show up to a Mavs and Jazz game and sitting front row, and they're like, "Why are we getting tampering charges?" It wasn't me, Shaggy. It's just why punt on a draft pick for no reason? I get it's a second round pick. It's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but why do it? Just because something costs $5, why am I going to give you 10 for it? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense.
It's either two things. One, the Knicks' arrogance, they just don't care. Maybe they were just so committed to making sure that they could get this done.
Right.
They didn't, to them, it maybe meant it was just a casualty to give up the second round pick. Maybe it was just dumb. They made a mistake. Mistakes happen. Dumb things are said and done. I mean, that is a possibility as well, that they just slipped up.
But that's not like a slip up. You have to plan. You have to buy a flight. It's not like the game was in Brooklyn. It was in Dallas. You got to fly to Dallas, get a hotel.
I get you. I hear you on that, but that doesn't mean that they didn't make a mistake. And then in retrospect, we shouldn't have done that. Look how many times people talk about people in high power, or government officials, or presidents of this and that, of corporations. Dude, stupid shit. It happens. Just because you have a high level title doesn't necessarily mean you're doing everything perfectly. Now, in the grand scheme of things, is it worth it for Jalen Brown? Absolutely. Of course it is. But mistakes do happen along the way. No one's perfect. Not even Leon Rose. Not even, I want to say Dolan J. Trump. I don't even know what his first name is anymore. Not even Dolan. Mistakes happen.
Yeah. I understand. I mean, I have nothing else to say about it. It's just insane. And the Knicks, if the Knicks are getting investigated for tampering, It's got to be because they went to that game. I don't know. I'm guessing that that's the reason, but it has to be. What other reason? Because no other team. And maybe I think the Sixers are getting investigated. Also, maybe there's one other team.
Stuff.
What was that?
The PJ Tucker stuff.
PJ Tucker stuff. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other team that's getting it. And it's just BS. It's just the NBA has a major tampering problem and they don't care. They love the social media stuff. They love that they're in the conversation 24/7, 365. They love it. And it's great for the league because it keeps everybody engaged. They love when the players tweet. They love the nonsense and comparisons and the videos of missed dunks. And they love all that. Any promotion is promotion for them. So they don't care if you're tampering. They just want Shams or Woj to be everybody's alerts on them or other reporters and teams and players announcing. They love this crap. So to act like they care about tampering is a joke. But again, why would the Knicks put it out there in their face and show up front row for a game that even if they trade for Donovan Mitchell, they can get another tampering charge because they played the fucking Jazz. So it's just like the Mavs versus the Jazz with Jalen Brunson versus Donovan Mitchell. It's like, why put yourself in that situation? You got all these assets. Why are you going to punt on one for no reason? Why am I giving you $10 when something's cost $5? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, because you have not. Here's your answer, Alex.
Okay.
Because it's been really hard to make the $5 sale lately. So you said, screw it, because it's been a minute. And maybe that $5 had connections with father and agents, and it was obvious, but it's been a minute. So, I mean,
they wanted to make sure.
They just wanted to make sure. I mean,
it's just stupid.
But you know what, Al? Here,
stupid.
You know what?
There's nothing around it.
I'll say this, Alex.
It doesn't matter, but it's stupid.
Thank God the media couldn't have been there a few weeks ago to ask these kind of questions. I mean, maybe this is something where the media would have said, "Hey, you went to the Mavs game, right? Oh, that would be treating the Knicks poorly." I don't know. Let
me ask you a question.
For the media.
What do you think the first question Kevin Durant's going to be at Nets media day if he shows up?
Oh, and rightfully so. I would hope and the Nets aren't excusable. The Nets have been a disaster too. You haven't heard from Sean Marks. It's just not a topic.
Yeah, because nobody cares.
Topic because nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
No,
in a nice way, and nobody cares.
Right. The truth be told is like, where's Sean Marks about this? I mean, where's the Nets? They haven't talked. They haven't spoken. They've done nothing themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you've heard Woj, that's been the Nets. But at some point, the Nets are going to have to speak.
Yeah.
It will. I mean, and they will speak. Unlike the Knicks, they will do it. They have
2 months to figure it out. Yeah.
But they're going to have to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine the Nets all of a sudden pulling the Knicks and being like, well, they do it. So will we.
I can't wait for that Kyrie. I hope Kyrie's on the Nets just to get that media day, just to see what he looks like. He's probably to come like just in something ridiculous and say something ridiculous. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Though for me, might be. Who knows? He could be. I'll come out here and be like, yeah, we're back. I'd run it back.
I keep saying, like, if I were the Nets, I would send him home and pay him, even if I can't trade him. Just let him expire his contract. But then you're going to deal with the crap that he's going to show up to games. He's just going to show up and sit front row, buy a ticket,
unless the vaccine rule changes.
Yeah,
back. Can't come in anymore. COVID up. I mean, who knows?
I think have a new rule. If you're unvaccinated and named Kyrie Irving, you cannot come to games.
I think he'll play if he's still on the roster. I don't think they'll. If he's willing. If he's like, I want to be traded or I don't, that's another story. But if he's like, I'm here, he's going to play.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I mean, this is bizarre. Like, Alex, you and I have fucking been talking about this forever. Ugh. It's August.
It's annoying.
I mean, at some point, stuff's going to have to happen. Like, man, it's just so weird because the emotion that had been felt from both of us. When Shams put out the tweets about Durant demanding a trade, it was like spiraling. All these rumors, all these packages, all these deals. And then the Knicks with Donovan Mitchell. It's going to happen. Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5 picks? Is it 702 picks? And then here we are. And it's like,
yeah. It's going to almost like be like reopening a wound. Like, and when it, like we're kind of like closed up. We're dealing with like, oh, they getting Donovan Mitchell. They're not. And then you're dealing with Durant demanded a trade. Kyrie tried to shop himself, but then opted in. And then it's just like, all right, now we're here. Or maybe we'll come back. And then it's just like, and it's going to get ripped right open. Like you get stabbed in the same wound again. And it's going to happen all over again.
Man, I wish I was debating like right now, like, the Royce O'Neal edition. I like that off the bench. Is TJ Warren starting or you to go with Joe Harris?
How's Joe Harris going to do coming back from injury?
Is Day'Ron Sharp going to take the next step?
Cam
Look,
Thomas.
Dayron. Hey, Dayron.
Was
Look,
Cam Thomas on the team. It was after he trashed Steve Nash like that in summer league.
Well, he was second in summer league in scoring.
That means so much.
Knicks fans, if you don't, in your viewpoint, he should be all NBA second team.
Yeah, Chris. Shout out to Chris Copeland, summer league Hall of Famer. He made the roster though. I mean, he played well for the Knicks in that one good season they had in the last 20.
Oh, I'm so glad summer league's over. What an annoying summer league performance.
Yeah, it's
annoying.
It's so bad now. It's so bad, and it's so overrated that it's bad. It used to be cool to watch, where it's like, oh, cool, you get to look at the guys, and on like MSG at 10 p.m. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Now it's like ESPN, and it's a whole drama. There's a tournament. It's like, come on. Let me just watch my kids and then like not take it seriously. But people are thirsty for content, and that's just what they do.
Are you not upset that the Knicks and Nets lost in the summer league? Are you not reacting to that? You didn't.
People got upset with me because I said go outside, because it was a Sunday afternoon for the summer league championship at 3:00 on a summer Sunday, and it was like 90 degrees outside or 80 degrees. It's just like, go outside. Like, don't waste your time. If you're home and you have nothing to do, or you're not feeling well, or whatever, fine. But if you're planning your day around watching the Knicks summer league championship at 3:00, then I really have to question your mental sanity. And that's probably why people hate me.
I would agree and disagree with you all at the same time from those comments.
Okay.
Would you like to hear why?
No.
We don't have to.
No,
we can move on.
I'd like to hear why. And now let's get to the interview.
I would agree with you that you're right. You probably should. But I would push back a little on telling people what to do with their time, but I would agree that that's probably better used doing something else. My opinion, I'm like, less Knicks fans out and about. It's good for everybody.
Listen, it's my opinion that you're crazy if you're planning your Sunday around that, and it's your opinion to call me crazy for saying that, or being an asshole for saying that.
That's true.
It's your right and it's my right, and that's it. It's
like
people who show up at like concerts wearing, and dye their hair green and wear tights and shit. Like that's what you want to do. It's my opinion to say, like, what are you doing? You look ridiculous. You know what I mean? Right. Like going to the electric, the dance concerts and crap that they used to do, like whatever, outside of Citi Field, whatever that crap used to be,
In my opinion, the Knicks fan is the most overrated fan in sports.
Oh,
just my opinion. I'm just joking.
It's funny.
I'm just joking.
It's funny when the last thing before we get to Uncle Foolio here, and it's funny. Like I remember as a kid saying, "Well, telling a friend, my friend Greg at the time,
2 G's or one,
1 G,
okay,"
and he's like, I said, "It's Madison Square Garden. It's the world's most famous arena." He's like, "How do they know it's the most famous arena?"
I like Greg.
And it stuck with me throughout because it's just kind of funny. It's like how did you gauge that? Like, how do you know it's the world? It's just because it's in New York, because you say it is. It's the Mecca.
I like Greg. What was his team?
He was a Knicks fan. But he's one of those that he grew out of it. He was a big fan back in the day. We were both in like kids fan clubs and Knicks fan club, whatever. We got like t-shirts and stuff back in the day. But then he kind of like grew out of it when he got older. He's not a fan of it anymore.
That's funny. Why is it? That's why. Who says it's? How did that originate? Have you been to every arena and gauge the famous levels? Did you do a study on that? Did you go out and actually go to each arena, ask the fans, poll
all the fans?
I mean, what is actually the most famous arena? What do you think it is? Is that the most famous?
Probably the Greece, the
NBA sports arenas.
Sports arenas.
Is Staples Center? I would say Staples.
It's not even Staples anymore. It's the Crypto something or
okay. Then it's okay. I'm wrong.
I think it's the Garden because it's the last of the arenas. I mean, the Celtics don't play in the Boston Garden anymore. The Lakers don't play at the Forum anymore. There's no arena that's that. Like the old players play, even though it's like the new Garden, it's a new quote unquote Garden where they had an old Garden and where they played originally. So, and then there was one before that too. It was near Madison Square Park. That's why it's Madison Square Garden, obviously. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think the Garden is the most famous NBA arena because it's the oldest one. Maybe hockey might have different ones. I don't know because of Montreal Canadiens have that, or the Yankees of hockey. The Canadians have the most cups, I think, all time, and they get a real random hockey point because I was in Montreal. I learned all about Montreal for work a couple of years ago. When the Nets signed Durant and Kyrie, I was there in 2019 for a work trip, and the Canadians have If they don't anymore, I don't know, but they had the most Stanley Cups ever of all time, and they haven't won a Stanley Cup since the 90s. So it's insane. Like they were that dominant, you know? So anyway.
I'm my brain's just thinking about if you have how many seeing all those championships and how much fun that might be.
Yeah.
I
think 24 Stanley Cup championships. And they've won them since and their last one was, hold on. Now I gotta know. Sorry, say something.
And if I always thought the Paycom Center was the most famous arena.
The Paycom?
Where the Thunder play.
How about the Smoothie King or whatever it is in Detroit now?
Wasn't Smoothie King the Pelicans?
Oh, it's the Pelicans. What's the Pistons then? Yeah, 93. By the way, 93 was the last Stanley Cup championship for the Montreal Canadiens, and they have 24, and they still have the most of all time, and they haven't won since 1993, which is insane.
Pretend you're a Canadiens fan. I'm a Devils fan, and I'd be debating. Okay, that's great. You have all these cups. How old are you? You're 31. How many have you seen? Okay, I had Marty Brodeur for three cups. So to me, it's like, okay, great. You can fall back on the history, but how many were you alive for?
Oh man, I told you about that story when the Nets signed Kyrie and Durant, and I actually celebrated. I was in Montreal for work in 2019, and I was in a hotel room, and there was no ESPN or sports because I had to watch TSN. In Canada.
You celebrating is coping for being upset.
I didn't want Durant, and I was excited. I was arguing with Knicks fans ever since he went down. The second he went down in the finals, I said no, and I was arguing with people all summer. And then I was going to the gym, and this is how I know it was tampering, to bring it full circle before we get to Uncle Foolio, that I made sure to go to the gym before it hit 6:30 or whatever time, 6 o'clock, whatever time it was going to be the time. And literally it was like a half hour before. And I was like trying to go to the gym to get a quick workout in before I was just going to be obsessed with my phone and TV. And it was like, and as I'm walking into the gym, I saw the alert from Shams, and I was like, or Woj, whoever it was like, oh my God. And then people like looked at me like, what the fuck? I was like, oh, sorry. I had important news.
I know it hasn't worked, obviously, but
yes.
Boy, I would have loved to have seen every Knicks fan's reaction to that individually as it happened. Now, granted, looks like they got the last laugh, but boy, yeah. but you know, who knows? But
well, I wanted Kyrie. I can't take the full victory lap because I wanted Kyrie. But anyway,
yeah, I would have loved to have just seen everybody done Knicks spaces that say the Nets don't count. Like that reaction to see that live must have sucked.
There was no spaces back then, but thankfully.
But you know what I mean? Like somebody on Twitter going like, oh my God, this is my nightmare.
Like the that
happened to a lot of people, a lot of Knicks fans. That was their nightmare.
Well, you have the thing with the Zion lottery that year with the Deezus and Mero went to a bar with Jadakiss and Fat Joe, and they're at a bar and they're watching the lottery, and then the fourth pick comes, whoever it was, and they're all like singing and dancing, and then all of a sudden, before they can calm down, they went to the third pick really quick, and before they can calm down, it was like Knicks, and they're like, and the record oh fuck. And you saw the soul come out of their mind. Jadakiss is like, they just fucked the whole NBA up. Just because it was kind of stupid to not give the Knicks Ja Morant or Zion. I mean, I love RJ, but
the league doesn't give them anybody.
I know.
It's a lottery.
They could have fixed one for us, man. They fixed the Ewing one.
You got the best player in the draft. Relax.
So speaking of RJ Barrett, a guy who's not very fond of him is Uncle Foolio. He's of the Nothing But Knicks podcast, or the channel on YouTube. He does a Kontroversy show. It was a lot of fun. We talked a lot of Knicks and a lot of Nets with him too. So it wasn't just Knicks talk, but he's a big Knicks fan. You got anything else to say, Mike, before we kick it over there?
No, I just want to let people know you went on his show as well. So after you listen to this, enjoy it. Go back, binge the reverse episode. You'll have fun with that. No, so it's cool. Yeah, here's Josh, aka Uncle Foolio, on Bad Weather Fans. All right, as promised here on Bad Weather Fans, Josh, aka Uncle Foolio. He's the host of the Kontroversy. You can find him on Nothing But Knicks. And I enjoy Josh, aka Uncle Foolio, because I love people that go after Alex, and I love people that disagree with Alex. I don't care what the opinion is. You could be talking about, are we doing peanut butter? Are we doing crunchy? Are we doing smooth? And Alex says smooth.
Crunchy.
Josh, you say, okay, Alex, shush. I love that. And I love the give and take that you guys had. I enjoyed when Alex went on your podcast as well, Josh. Yeah. So thank you for coming on Bad Weather Fans. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Thank you for having me. Salute. What's going on, Mike? What's going on, Alex? Been watching you guys for a long time. Appreciate what you guys do. I love like this little concept you guys have with the Nets and the Knicks and like those conflicting views. I think that's what, a lot of stuff that I'm pretty much interested in, conflicting views and just going back and forth. And you guys do a phenomenal job. So salute.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a lot of fun when we were on there. We had some arguing. If you guys want to go back on the controversy and just see our episode, it was a lot of fun. Got a little heated, but so
Alex was wrong 90% of the time. Let's just put that out there right now.
Yeah.
He was wrong 90% of the time.
You're giving him 10% now. What is this? Not 100?
Only 10%. That's it.
Yeah, just got to be nice, right? You got to be nice.
Yeah.
So anyway, first question, let's jump right into it. The tampering charges with Jalen Brunson, your thoughts on that? My take is sort of like, why did they put themselves through it by showing up the Mavs Jazz game? Like, what was the point to cost themselves a second round pick? What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
So I mean, really, I really don't care about the tampering charges, to be honest. This happens all the time in the NBA. So I'm not faulting the Knicks for that per se. I do want to say that it is very difficult for the NBA to prove this. You're talking about Rick Brunson, the connections with the agents, Leon Rose's son and all that stuff. So it's going to be very, very difficult for the NBA to prove it. However, I do think there is a possibility that they can, catch the Knicks slipping, particularly if the Knicks were blatant in this whole thing. And like you said, with the thing going to the Jazz game, the Jazz and Mavericks, game and Julius Randle showing up, it's just, it's not the best thing the Knicks could have done, but still with all that, it's going to be very difficult for the NBA to prove. But regardless, it's a second round pick. I really don't care about it. It's not going to stop us from doing anything substantial now or in the future. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a problem either. And if you're giving up a second round pick, so be it. I'll love it though, because when it happens, and if it does happen, I mean, the typical Knicks take will be, if this was another team, they wouldn't have done it. But because it's us, the media, they're coming after us. Everybody dislikes the Knicks, and that's the first thing that'll happen is, well, because we're the Knicks, of course this happened. But if this was the Pelicans, it wouldn't be something that happened, and it would have just been pushed off to the side.
Well, that's my issue with the it was just unneeded. You know what I mean? It's just like, why did you do that? All these deals are announced at 6:01 when the free agent starts at 6 o'clock, and they're not getting tampering charges. And the Knicks just were so blatant. They're on TV, like,
hey, here we go.
But it wasn't me, I swear. Kind of thing. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing, I mean, I don't know why the Knicks sometimes, and I feel like sometimes the Knicks slap themselves in the face. Right. And as a Knicks fan, that's very crazy for me to say, because a lot of people have been coming at me for my Knicks takes and how they deal with the media and everything like that. I don't think this is a big conspiracy against the Knicks. I think sometimes we literally do it to ourselves. And it's been that way for the past 20 years. Not a popular thing to say in the Knicks community, but that's just the way I feel. I've been feeling that way for a very long time. And this is just one of the issues that we've been having.
Yeah, I would say that, in agreeing with Alex, I could see him seeing eye to eye on that topic. And like you said, you're just kind of in the forefront. Why are we dealing with this? Why are we doing this? Why are we making this? But back to the point, like, a second round pick in the grand scheme of things, not great, because we talk about how important it is to accumulate these draft picks. But at the same time, if this is the deal of business and it has to be done like that, so be it. With that in mind, Jalen Brunson is a Knick. Your view on his signing, his impact in New York, and your viewpoint on the deal that was done.
Huge. I was a big Jalen Brunson fan dating back to 2 seasons ago when I seen Jalen Brunson play. He was the backup point guard for the Mavericks. I loved it. I thought he was very poised, very efficient from the field, smart, very underrated as a defender. Definitely can help this team in many ways. I think this is the point guard we've been looking for years, and I just think it was the right time. Undersized or not, I think he's going to bring tremendous contributions to this team. If you look at Dallas's defense, they were one of the best defensive teams in the NBA last year with a backcourt of Luka Doncic and undersized Jalen Brunson. So I really don't feed too much into the size thing or the lack thereof. I think the Knicks defensively will be fine. Last year, defensively, we were fine if you look at it in the grand scheme of things. I just think this is a tremendous upgrade for this team. And I think offensively, we will be better. And that's, for me, where I'm focused on. Offensively, we need to shoot better from the field, and we need to take better shots, and having a point guard out there like Jalen Brunson that allows us to do that.
Game 1, Evan Fournier starting a shooting guard. Your reaction will be what?
Okay. I don't hate Evan Fournier as much as a lot of the other Knicks fans do. I mean, you got to think, this guy, we brought him in here for a reason, to knock down 3-point shots. And I know early on he was kind of off and on with that, but after January 1st, no one in the NBA hit more 3-pointers than Evan Fournier. So I like it. I like the move.
Even over Grimes?
Starting off the season, absolutely. I think Quentin Grimes still has a little bit more to prove. I'm a huge Quentin Grimes fan. I love Quentin Grimes. I love what it brings to the table. If he's not involved in this Donovan Mitchell trade, whatever.
Yeah.
But
assuming that's not happening. Yeah.
Yeah, assuming whatever.
Yeah.
But I think Evan Fournier, for what he does for this team, offensively is the key for me. We just need to knock down shots, and I think Evan Fournier did that second half of the season. Let's see how it goes to start the season and then moving forward.
Yeah, I don't mind Fournier in that sense if you're a winning team and he's giving you that kind of production, but you've seen, I mean, just the kind of defensive liability that he is for the Knicks. I'll look at the Celtics, for example. He's on Boston. He's removed from that team. Just how good defensively they got. Here he is now with the Knicks, and I see your point that he's making all these 3-point shots. But I think from a Knick fan view, it's about wins and losses. And here is a Knick team that won whatever it was that season before. That was the 4 seed. Is playing great. Yeah. Then they bring him in as an addition, and they drop 10 wins with 10 more games played. So the frustration starts to mount for the Knick fans, and he's an easy target. So it's probably not completely his fault, obviously, but it's such an easy target for the Knick fan that's like, we were 10 games over 500. Evan Fournier is now on the Knicks. We're 10 games under 500. When we played all these games, he's the fault. He's the problem. But to what you're saying, Josh, like if there's some sort of smooth transition where he's playing, even though he's overpaid, 15 to 20 minutes, giving you offensive spark, and maybe at times gives you more based on if he's hot, then he works for you. But if you're going to rely on him to be your star 2 guard, I think there would be a problem there.
Well, I don't agree entirely. I'm one of the Knicks fans that actually appreciates what Evan Fournier brings to the table. And I know, again, there's defensive limitations, but you look at the Knicks stats last season, they were still one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. Not quite as good as they were the season prior, but I still think they performed well on defense. They were holding a lot of teams to under 100 points, which is unheard of in today's NBA, with Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker in the backcourt. You know what I mean? So I don't think a lot of it is on Evan Fournier. I think you can contribute a lot of the Knicks' failures last season to late game execution, to the Eastern Conference being a better conference. I mean, that alone right there, the Knicks weren't going to repeat the same success. And just, the up and downs of Kemba Walker, I don't think that situation kind of worked out. And, I just chalk it up to a bunch of things, not just Evan Fournier. So we'll see what happens.
Just real quick, Alex, as much as I like to say Knick fans all put it on Evan Fournier, I appreciate you coming on this podcast and just saying all the shitty things about the Knicks. That was gorgeous.
That's Josh's
real slick there, Mike. Real slick. I like that.
No problem.
Another one. Are you happy with Mitchell Robinson's contract? Were you a fan of his and wanted to bring him back, or were you like it was too much?
Ooh, that one was kind of shaky for me. Not gonna lie, because I think offensively, and I get it sounds like I'm going to blame all the offensive problems on Mitchell Robinson, but he's very limited what he can do offensively. Can't stretch the floor at all. Can't score outside the paint. I mean, he has a really good field goal percentage just because all of it is off of dunks, right? Defensive rebounding he needs to improve on, and also he's not that good of a screener. So I just thought, I know I mentioned defensive rebounding, but just offensively, I think he clogs up the paint. And anytime you don't have a team that can shoot the ball that well, your offense is not going to perform that great. You look at a situation like Utah, right? Utah had Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, and all those guys. They were a great 3-point shooting team. That's why their offense was able to score so many points while having a big guy that can't do anything outside of the paint. Mitchell Robinson is kind of like Rudy Gobert in that sense, but the Knicks don't have that good of a shooting. And Evan Fournier is probably the best shooter on the team. But outside of that, Randall shot horribly. RJ shot god-awful from the field and from three-point range last year. And just, I just didn't like the fit. But hopefully, we got him locked up now. Hopefully, that along with bringing in Brunson, improve the efficiency a little bit, get some better shots on offense, and let's see where it goes. But I wasn't a big fan of the number he got. I was really hoping like more 12 to 13 range, but I guess 15 a season is not that bad. So I'll rock with it. We'll be all right.
All right. Well, I know your thoughts on RJ. You don't want to give him the max extension and
No.
RJ Barrett. You're not a big fan of that. You want to give him less. So why don't you elaborate on that and how, so you can show everybody how wrong you are about your take on that.
Oh, please, Alex, please, please. I mean, just look at it. I mean, we're talking about 33 years in the NBA. It's about to be his 4th season, right? You're talking about paying this guy a max contract, like a Luka Doncic, Trae Young, that type of max contract, rookie extension for RJ Barrett. And I just don't think he's at that level yet. Yes, he has improved every year he's been in the NBA, but shooting numbers are still bad. I still haven't seen RJ Barrett literally be consistent enough and carry the team on his back and take them through games and stuff like that. I still want to see a little bit more from him. I think he's very overrated amongst the Knicks fan base defensively. I don't think he's that good defensively. He gets beat backdoor a lot. And he's just not a max player, in my opinion. $36 million a season. I understand the salary cap is going up, but that is a lot of money for someone who can't carry a team and carry a franchise. So at this point, I'm just not willing to do it. I'll give him another season, see if he can be able to take that next step, become a fringe kind of all-star, and then I'll reconsider it at that point. But as of right now, I am not paying RJ Barrett $181 million for 5 years. Not happening.
Yeah, you know what's wild about it to me, because Alex and I have gone back and forth about RJ Barrett, him with a higher viewpoint of where he is right now. See, to me, it's like the contract isn't about paying RJ Barrett for what he's done. It's about paying RJ Barrett for what you think he can do. And that's the part that I think is confusing for a lot of Knicks fans. That I think is confusing for somebody watching RJ Barrett's going, what do you think his ceiling is? Because obviously he is not worth that kind of contract. Now, somebody that's never been an all-star in the NBA to give a max contract, okay, it's a little confusing. But then when you read between the lines, it's like, all right, he's so young. He's got so much more where he can improve. You're taking a risk on that. So it's one of those, I don't think we'll know if the contract was worth giving him until 3, 4, 5 years. That sounds pretty basic, but it's like, you don't know yet what he is. And I think to say, is he worth it at this juncture? No. Is he worth it in 3 or 4 years? The Knicks are betting on him to do well. And I think as a Knicks fan, I would be at least excited to know that my own team is betting on their own players to do well. That bet could fail, or it could be like, holy shit, we're paying RJ Barrett this amount of money and we have him under contract. This is great. But I think it's just such a weird time, because it's like, it's your camp and it's Alex's camp. Which one's going to win? And I think you both obviously want it to be RJ Barrett's the best player in the league level. But at this point, it's like, I don't know. So I guess I would ask you then, do you think he can achieve and get to that status where he's worth the contract?
Absolutely, he can get there, but this is the reason why I don't want to rush and make this decision right now. I want to give him another season to continue to improve on some of those things that I spoke about, the shooting, running a little bit more pick and roll, being the primary ball handler on this team. Believe it or not, Brunson, he's a really good point guard, but he's not a primary ball handling type. This RJ is still going to have a lot of touches. He's still going to be able to get some shots up per game. Randall, hopefully his can go down a little bit, but I still think that whole dynamic, this is without the elephant in the room, Donovan Mitchell being there. If RJ can, continue to improve, and, I think it is possible to potentially look at him as a max player. I want to extend him. There's no doubt in my mind. I want to extend him. I want him to be a part of this team's future, but I also don't want to have a $36 million a year player on the roster and it becomes an albatross that now you can't move. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think RJ Barrett is at the Russell Westbrook level where you can make 40 something to $50 million a year and get traded 3 times in his whole contract. RJ Barrett is not at that level. He's not an MVP caliber type of player. So I just don't want the Knicks to be in an albatross kind of situation with or without the salary cap going up.
Yeah, it feels a little bit PTSD for you, where it's Julius Randle, where they paid him too soon. They had the team option in their pocket. And they're like, well, prove it again, and then we'll pay you. And instead, they just decided to pay him before the team option year. And then, of course, the team option year, he fell apart. So,
but Alex, $36 million is not the same as 24, 26.
Right.
That's
and
totally
Julius Randle's
different.
all NBA. It's a little different.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I get
Absolutely.
it. I get it. But to me, I didn't understand why they paid him too soon. But we looked at it as like, wow, this is a bargain. They got Julius Randle on a discount. And a year later, you're like, holy crap, can we get rid of this guy? So I hear you there. So with Donovan Mitchell, what is your max to give up to get him? Do you want him? What was your max? What would you give up to get him?
Listen, Donovan Mitchell. Okay.
So
easily. Donovan Mitchell is a showstopper. I think he would be the biggest star in Madison Square Garden since Carmelo Anthony. I think he is that level of talent. We're talking about a four-time All-Star, 25 years old, hasn't even reached his prime yet. And I think people often, a lot of Knicks fans who don't want him here, often bring up the fact that Utah hasn't got past the first round or whatever, but don't see what Donovan Mitchell is to that team and the teams that they went against in a gauntlet of the Western Conference. So yes, I want him. I think the Knicks have been saving up all these assets for a reason, right? Donovan Mitchell, we were talking about Jalen Brunson years ago. He's been rumored to the Knicks for a long time, but ever since Leon Rose came here, Donovan Mitchell has been rumored to come to the Knicks. I think this is a perfect time to strike. If it's me, 4 unprotected first-round picks, I'm doing that in a heartbeat, no question about that. And then you got to make the money work. I'm talking probably Fournier, Cam Reddish, and then a Miles McBride. That's an ideal trade for me. You get rid of Fournier because obviously Mitchell's going to play his starting role in that spot right there. Cam Reddish is someone else that we also have to think about paying. I don't think he's earned any type of extension yet with the New York Knicks. And then Miles McBride is just something, that we drafted.
A nice little young piece. Yeah, nice I don't know if that's enough. I feel like you got to give up Quickly or Toppin or Grimes. You got to give up 2 of those.
Perhaps, but listen, the Knicks don't necessarily have to do this right now. I mean, I think they do, but there's no rush
$1 million
to really
question
do it
right there. Yeah,
there's no real rush to do it, but I do think it needs to get done. If it does mean getting rid of Quickly or Obi, bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if that's what it means, but bye. Yeah.
Yeah. I
love you,
but
bye.
I think it's a no-brainer, and I don't think there's I think fans, this is not a Knick thing, but I think Knick fans do this really well, is guys that are on your roster you fall in love with, you like, you get into them, you support them, and then you have this self-fill like they're better than they really are. I mean, this offseason, Obi Toppin is now one of the top power forwards in the NBA. Meanwhile, he has a sample size of 5 games when he played against the Toronto Raptors, where me and Alex were playing point and small forward. So it's kind of bullshit to all of a sudden inflate someone's stats. And I'm not saying he doesn't have this potential, but when you're comparing him to somebody, then you ran down his stats. 4-time All-Star, 25 years old, hasn't even touched his prime. To me, it is blowing my mind when people are talking about not being willing to give up pieces of players on its roster that have proved absolutely nothing in the league for somebody that is a bona fide star, you said showstopper, and would be an immediate attraction at Madison Square Garden. Like, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if Knick fans are going to get this excited about Emmanuel Quickly, thinking how good he is, and kudos to Knick fans because they care. You know how annoying they're going to be when they actually have somebody that's a decent superstar level guy? It's going to be fucking bananas annoying. So I'm just like, how people go from I can't give up Quickly, just I can't do it, I can't do it, when the rest of the NBA is going, who? Of course you give up Emmanuel Quickly. So to me, it's like when we start going into like the 6, 7, 8 first-round draft pick area, that's where I'm like, we're getting bananas. But if we're giving up 2 young players and multiple picks, that's what has to happen when you're trying to get a guy in Donovan Mitchell who is a fringe, super duper star. That's just business.
Yeah. And listen, I think at this point, the Knicks can offer the most as far as draft compensation, more than any other team, in my opinion. I think Oklahoma City has almost the same amount of draft picks as the New York Knicks, but I don't think Oklahoma City has the contracts to make it work, like the money, the bulk of the salary to make this move work. So the Knicks are in the driver's seat as far as what they can offer. I would feel really horrible if the Utah Jazz pull it straight off with someone else other than the New York Knicks.
Right. Me too.
I would be a little bit
distraught.
I would feel much better if they keep him. They just keep him throughout the season. Right. They don't make any trades. But if, let's say, Miami pulls this off, I mean, come on. Right. Like, after all this time, this is why you're here. Or Boston, or someone like that along those lines to pull out. Or Brooklyn. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or someone like that to pull off that type of trade, and the Knicks don't, I will be completely devastated. And at that point, I'm going to want to hear from the front office and the Knicks organization on what they were thinking. But, they don't want to talk to the media or nothing like that. So that's a whole different can of worms.
No, I'm at that point too, man. We're right on par with each other on that. Like, if the Knicks don't get Donovan Mitchell at this point, and it's because they just were like, hey, we're going to negotiate by not negotiating. That's a Knick fan thing now.
Right.
They're negotiating by not talking. I'm like, no, that's not negotiating. That's just like, we're playing a dangerous game here. You want to come back to me? We'll let the market come to us. The Jazz don't have to come back to the Knicks. I say this all the time. They don't have to be like, well, we got this deal, so hey, Knicks, what do you think? No, they're not restricted free agents. They don't have to come back. So that drives me nuts. And I agree with you.
There's a such thing as overplaying your hand. You can easily overplay your hand in these type of situations. Like,
easily. And NBA trades come out of nowhere all the time. Like, we talk about this all the time on the show. Like with Paul George going to the Clippers, nobody saw that coming. You know what I mean? So it's just like all these things can happen out of nowhere in the NBA. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, they're doing free agent deals at 602. Things are happening all the time. You know what I mean? Nobody knows.
Everyone's tampering.
Right. Exactly. And I agree with you on Leon Rose, where I didn't care if he at the Jalen Brunson press conference. I didn't care if he talked at that, but after the draft, I needed him to talk. I didn't care if he talked in his intro press conference. I don't care if he had one. I didn't give a damn about that. At the end of last season, he needed to talk, and at the draft, he needed to talk. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I've been taking like just bullets from all over the place, kind of like Sonny at the toll booth in Godfather. I just been getting hit from all over the place because I have this take that is very, very controversial and dissenting amongst the Knicks fan base. I just feel like anytime you have an organization that treats the media as if, they don't exist or they don't need the media, along with the fact that the Knicks have not been good in years and all the fans are choosing the team over the media when they're supposed to voice their frustrations and accountability through the media. To me, I just don't understand it and I don't agree with. I think the Knicks, if one of the few organizations that are able to own their own network and control the revenue that they put out there, one of the few organizations that can do that in sports. You got them, the Yankees, and a lot of the other big market teams, but that's an advantage to have. And, they can control anything they put out there. That little press conference they had with Jalen Brunson, although I don't care about the tampering that much, it's just the principle of the whole thing, not having the media there to ask questions. And if you're concerned about asking about tampering and Donovan Mitchell, you plead the fifth, or you say, this is not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Jalen Brunson and his day, his family. You do it like that, but to completely not invite the media, I just think it sets a dangerous precedent in the world of sports.
Yeah, it absolutely does. My favorite part of it was Knicks fans' defense of this is Jalen Brunson's day. Like we want to make sure that we shield the media from him because they're going to be so mean to him. I'm like, are you from New York? What is
exactly?
This? Oh, yes. I can't take the hypocrisy of this is the toughest city in the world. This is the toughest city to play in. And then being like, stay away and be nice to Jalen Brunson. It's about his day. Oh, we want to make sure we ask him easy questions and everybody can get what they want. I mean, it has the feel of like, oh, I love this guy in power. I don't want them to ask tough questions because I'm such a sycophant of this. And then the arrogance of like, they're mean to us. They've been mean over the years. I'm glad they come in. This is the new way of doing things. It's like, well, you also don't have access in to ask these guys questions. This is standard procedure. And I'm a big fan of free press. I don't like the idea of censorship. Yep. And I don't care if and I respect Knicks fans that want to fight back and use their own platforms to do things. I think that's awesome too. I get mad when people say there's too many there's too many podcasts, there's too many viewerships, there's too many ways for people to act. No, use your ability, use your skills and do that as well. But at the same time, let the media do their job and don't be so scared because they're tough and mean on your big bad Knicks.
Right. And let's face it, the Knicks have been bad. They have been a laughing stock. And I'm a Knicks fan. Like, it pains me to say this. I've been, watching Knicks for a very long time. I'm pretty young, guys. I'll be 30 this month, actually.
Wow.
But I've been a Knicks fan for a long time. Like most of my, older years, I guess I've watched this team be bad, and I just want them to do well on the floor. But every time and time again, we slap ourselves in the face with not just the product we put out there on the floor, but also stuff that we do off of it, the Spike Lee thing, the Oakley thing. And I just think it's appropriate when you're a number one team in the NBA, you make the most money, you have the most revenue, you sell the most jerseys, you play in world's most famous arena, you've been a bad team, you're a heritage franchise in the NBA, been around for the last 75 years, and you're this bad. So I don't know how else you want the media to talk about you. Oh, the Knicks been drafting pretty well over the past 2 or 3 years. Okay, let's go have a parade for Quentin Grimes being drafted at number 25. Come on, Knicks fans. I just don't understand it. We need to hold the organization accountable, and that starts with us using the media to our advantage and not going against them.
Yeah, but as I cough right away, but to defend Knicks fans a little bit, the media is a little harsh on them, especially in the national shows and then they come out with that clip that I found on ESPN where they're calling Julius Randle was the 6th man of the year when he won 2nd team All NBA and most improved player. And then these are the guys that are trashing the team publicly. And then you got reporters and people like that who are just twisting any story possible into a controversy. And it's just, after a while, you're just gonna be like, enough. You know what I'm saying? So I get it from that regard, but the fact that they're not talking when they're bad, and then they're going to come out at a Donovan Mitchell press conference, be like, "Hey, here we are. Let's all." That's corny to me. That's just so corny to me. Show up when they're bad and show up when they're good. But you like I said, real quick, like I don't mind that he didn't do an intro press conference. He doesn't want that picture like the one with Isaiah Thomas holding a basketball, Larry Brown holding a basketball. All these guys,
Steve Mills.
Steve Mills, all these people. You don't want that picture, sure, but at the end of the season, you had to say something to me. And then after the draft, when you just punted on the draft pick, you had to say something to me. Now Jalen Brunson, I don't really care, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, at the end of last season, you have a Leon Rose talking to the fans through MSG. Like, what kind of, like, where's the accountability in that? Like, I mean, a lot of Knicks fans said the Knicks didn't have a plan. I thought they had a plan from all along because he said so. But where's the accountability in having, Mike Breen or Bill Pito, someone that works for the network, asking all these lollipop layup questions? It needs to be something a little bit more because the fans absolutely want to know.
Scripted questions.
Yeah, scripted. And the little girl asked about the dog and everything. It's cute and everything. Cute, but no, not quite. But I do want to say this in regards to this whole media thing. This one last thing.
Yeah.
The San Antonio Spurs, they won 5 championships in 14 years or whatever it was, right? If that was the Knicks would be covered differently. They would be covered way bigger and better and like kind of like the way the Lakers are covered nationally than the San Antonio Spurs. If that's the case, a lot of this whole media thing, we wouldn't even be talking about right now. So I just think it's kind of hypocritical for Knicks fans to say, well, I don't like the way they should be covered the same way. The Kings have been just as bad as the New York Knicks. Yeah, but this is New York we're talking about, not Sacramento or Portland or somebody like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because on the other flip side of the spectrum, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Everyone would be talking about how great of a player RJ Barrett is one of the greatest players of all time, and the hyperbole will start. So I just think Knicks fans need to kind of temper it a little bit.
And to push back a little bit again, in the 90s, the Knicks were on top of the world, and we look back at that era fondly, but they were getting crushed daily because they didn't win the championship. They got the 2 finals and they got crushed all the time. Ewing was called a choke artist. People were trashing these players for Starks and, being reminded of his shooting game performance in Game 7 of 94. Like they got trashed a lot. And so it's not just, obviously they didn't win championships like your reference, which is solid. And I get that. But it's not like if they start winning, everybody's be nice. And especially since, it is frustrating. I know I get your point where they're a big market team, but it is frustrating how you're watching some ESPN show. You just want to hear the NBA news, what's going on. And all of a sudden it's like, did you see what, Dolan, farted yesterday and it was all over the, it's like, who fucking cares, man? Why? Like, who cares? Like, look at the Kings haven't made the playoffs in 30 years. And we're I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it's insane. Like, why are we the ones talking about? Yeah, pretty close.
Well, it's, the issue is it's now a self-fulfilling prophecy for everybody because at this point it's become a character of what reality is.
Knicks for clicks.
And it's some people that are lazy, not going the full way to find out the truth about things. And then at the same time, it's also what's reality and true. So the Knicks fans now getting ultra defensive and getting mad at anything they hear that's upset because the media has made mistakes. But at the same time, the media should be on the Knicks the same way. So anytime there's a little bit of a mistake, now it's like, told you. It's like, okay, Dave McMenamin made a mistake. Like, who really gives a shit what Dave McMenamin thinks and made a mistake about the Knicks? He's a national reporter who made that mistake and nobody caught it. That happens all the time, but because it's the Knicks and because the fans are jaded and because they're upset, we have to see one little thing. And so here we go. See, the media hates us. They're making fun of us. And then
everything is fake news. Everything is fake news now.
Yes. Uncle Foolio, what's your hate level of the Nets in comparison with Alex, I guess, and just your thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets?
All right. I don't want to just give you a one-word answer. I'm from Brooklyn originally. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. So I was a little bit excited when when the Nets came to Brooklyn. I thought it would be, something very good for my borough and for the city. And I thought that it would actually help the Knicks, hold them accountable a little bit more because now you have some competition in the same market. But I'll tell you this much. I really don't care for them that much. I mean, I think the colors
coming. I was gonna say, but
yeah, I mean the colors are cool, the black and white and everything like that. But this will always be a Knick town, Mike. I'm sorry. This is a Knick town forever.
Yeah, I agree. It is. but I don't think that changes the fact that the Nets have made a lot of ground and have made a huge dent. And to say forever, I mean, I don't know. Like, I would say it's so early in its infancy. Like, I would say, like, if we were doing a podcast in 1969 and the Mets were having this huge run and the Yankees, it's clearly a Yankees town. I know it's a little different because the NL was here with the Giants and Dodgers.
Right.
But I think if there was Twitter back then, people would get on there and start saying this is always going to be a Yankee town. I would say the Met Yankee thing is pretty vibrant, and there's a lot of great Met fans, even though if the Yankees have a slight edge. So I would say, 30, 40 years from now, maybe different, could be. I agree. It is.
Probably will be.
I
Yeah.
agree. There are more Knicks fans than there are Net fans, but I definitely think they have made a huge dent in the market, and one that's pretty annoying if you're a fan of the Knicks to see that there's another team in town is probably frustrating.
Well, what's huge? What's huge? You said huge dent. What does that mean? Elaborate on that.
Oh, I'd love to. It means they've come in from like I would say the Knicks fan talking about the Nets from Jersey in 2002 when the Nets made the NBA Finals. I bet you a lot of Knicks fans go, you know what? I could rock with this. Let me root for the Nets because they're in the area.
Yeah.
They're cute. They're down the street. Oh, don't they play near where the Giants are and the Jets are? That's kind of cool. Let me root for them versus the Lakers. I don't want to see Shaq and Kobe get another title. They're close. They're what's the word? Oh yeah, that's right. They're the Knicks' little brother. Let me root for little brother. I think now the problem is little brother isn't as much there. So I could never see a Knicks fan rooting for the Nets now in the finals. And to me, that shows all the growth you need to know about.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of can see where you're coming from with that. I just think, with the Knicks being an original NBA team, we're talking generations and generations of Knicks fans. You guys having issues selling out playoff games and stuff like that. Yeah. I just think you have a long way to go. Bring some titles in, and God help us if you guys get 3 and we still only have 2. I mean, I think at that point, then I would say huge dent. But at this point, I just think that you guys have a long way to go. But hopefully you don't get there. Let's go Knicks.
Yeah, no, I get you. And I'll close out on this part of saying it's a lot of old school mentality of this is the Knicks, this is our town, this is the way things will go. I guarantee you a 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 12-year-old walking around isn't going, man, I love the way Charles Oakley played defense and everything he brought to the Knicks.
No, that's a good point.
Man, I love the way John Starks didn't give 2 bleeps what Michael Jordan was. I love that. No, they're walking around going, and the Nets hurt themselves. Don't get me wrong. This was a terrible offseason. But they're walking around going, did you see Kyrie Irving? Did you see Kevin Durant? It's
their
different.
social media.
So I would say the platform has been set for the future generation more than current Knicks fans want to admit or can concede, because you can't see it right now, but it is brewing and it is coming. And that's what beyond the sports aspect of it really frustrates me about what the Nets did, because they had a true chance to do more. Ultimately, I just care about titles, but part of me does, I want to see them screw the Knicks. I don't like the Knicks, and that disappoints.
We don't like you either. No.
Good. At least we can agree on that.
No, you're right.
Yeah, I just want to see what it's going to be like once this era of Nets are gone and they go back to being a quote unquote regular team without these super mega stars. If their Nets still have a lot of fans and they're still selling out, then the Nets have really arrived. Right now, they're riding the I bring this up on this podcast all the time. I was at a sporting goods store out in Suffolk County on Long Island in some random place, Modell's, I think it was, and they were selling Warriors gear. And it was just it's just hitting me, why the fuck is there a Warriors shirt here? But it's because they're amazing. And 15 years ago, there was no Warriors gear in Long Island. So Nets gear is going to be everywhere because of these stars. We'll see what happens in 10 years when it's not the same, these Nets anymore, unless they go and get, Bronny Jr. and they're still great on top of that. I mean, who knows? I love how he's the example for everything. Poor guy.
Bronny James. They're going to need somebody. We gave away all their picks and it's just, I don't know. It's just a mess. I don't know. But I mean, I think they did win the Harden trade, the Harden for Simmons trade. I think they won that trade. I know Harden's going to go to, he's in Philly right now. Him and Embiid have a chance of winning some titles. But I think the haul that the Nets got, they kind of got back some of that stuff that they lost.
Simmons got to play though. He's got to play.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. But I still think they got back a couple draft picks or whatever. I think it was 2 draft picks or something like that. I think the Nets they're still in pretty good shape. They still got KD and Kyrie on the roster. If KD leaves, I think with a Kyrie there, they're still going to make a little bit of noise. Not anything contention wise, but I think they'll get somewhere in the playoffs, and then probably we'll see what happens after that. But I do agree, Ben Simmons definitely has to play.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see if he does, who's around him, there's so many question marks. There's a lot of question marks for the Knicks. There are so many question marks for the Nets from a team. If you look at Vegas and gambling and where they could be, it is all over the spectrum because it's just impossible to predict. And with guys like Kevin Durant, will he be like, I can't get traded? Okay, I'm back. Like, who knows? It's such a weird one, really, to predict where that team will be next season.
Can I ask you guys a question? I know it's just you guys' show, but I just thought about this.
It's your show.
No. This kind of crossed my mind because I've seen a lot of people against what Kevin Durant did as far as backing out of his contract, right? How do you guys feel about that whole situation? Like Kevin Durant saying, well, trade me. I'm not going to live up to the other 4 years I have left on my contract. Trade me to somewhere I want to go. Do you feel like, as a fan, Mike, especially you, I understand how you would feel about him not, being with the team for 4 years and wanting to leave so early into his contract, kind of stabbing him in the back. But from a business standpoint, do you think Kevin Durant breached his deal? Put it to you that way.
Alex, I'll let you.
No,
you want to start? Obviously, mega disappointed. He's a once in a lifetime player. He's one of the best to ever play in the NBA. So to know that he wants to leave is super disappointing because whatever the return is, it will never be Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is in those conversations where it's like, you want to have a debate today, who's better, Kevin Durant or Larry Bird, one of those kind of things. It's like, well, right. I don't know. But the point is, I know they're really the best that's ever done it. So from that standpoint, it couldn't be more disappointing. This is the league. And I've gotten to the point now where it's the players control the league. And that's why I get upset at the Nets, because you have to know who runs the team. And right. As disappointing as it is, and as upset as you might be, say, oh, when I watched the game, players respected their deals. This is just reality of what it is. Yeah. So am I disappointed? Absolutely. I'm terrified and saddened by the whole thing, but I'm past the point of caring on that front, because this is just the way it's been run. And this is the way the league goes, that a contract in this day and age really means nothing. It really does. And if you're that good of a player, you can control it. Maybe I'll be wrong. We'll see what happens, but that's just reality of the situation. So am I annoyed by it because I want him to be here? Yes. But am I mad at him because he's not living up to what he promised? Not mad, just really sad and disappointed more than anything.
As a fan.
Sure. But if I was watching this from afar, let's keep it real. Donovan Mitchell's doing the same thing without saying it.
Indirectly.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Right. He wants out of there. It's been more of the team hasn't had the ultimate success, but he's like, I'm out of here. This team's not going where it needs to go. I want a new try.
Yeah.
Just a little bit different than how Kevin Durant presented it when, at whatever it was, 1:42 p.m. Eastern on a Thursday, the whole Nets organization.
Just to be specific. Yeah.
I'm making that up.
But hey, listen, I get the whole, it's a business standpoint for sure. But when the team hands you the keys and you make the choices on the coach, you make the team, all the personnel decisions, you do everything. You make them sign DeAndre Jordan when you signed up, like a guy who was washed. We saw him for half a season. We were laughing. Oh, yeah. We're like, the Nets signed this guy. Like, okay, congrats. This is not DeAndre Jordan of 5 years ago. And then you're mad because the team isn't good enough. Like, dude, this is what you created. Like, you tied yourself to this guy, this loose cannon in Kyrie. And you were coming here with him regardless. I'm sure the Nets, if gun to their head, probably wanted to go with Kawhi and Durant if you really asked them. But they're like, we have a guarantee of Durant, so let's get him. Yeah, who knows? Who knows all the details there with the tampering that we don't know about, to bring it all full circle. But I think that once you do all that and then you demand, it's just corny. Now you're just a cornball to me. Now, this is not business. This is just you can't deal with your choices, and now you want to run. And then if I'm the Nets, I don't grant him whatever wish he wants. But they might have to.
Well, I think that's a very good point, Alex. I think the problem is now the Nets took the stance of, we're not allowing you to make decisions anymore, and that was taken away.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's where I go back to.
I agree. Yeah.
When you give him the keys, he gets the keys the whole time. You can't go halfway. It is what it is.
Agree.
This is the deal you made. It's the deal with the devil. This is what you got yourself into.
Finish the deal.
Once you got to this point, if you want Steve Nash fired now, you fire Steve Nash. End of story. Steve Nash is gone. He hasn't been a great coach to begin with. He hasn't been a good coach. Go. That's just the way you have to then understand the concessions, because you cannot take the power back. That's why I was like, when people were saying, oh, the Nets, this is ridiculous, they're not making any of the decisions for themselves, they're letting Kevin Durant make them. Damn straight.
Yeah.
They better. Now look
Yeah.
what happened. Look what happened when you decided you wanted to make decisions. Now everybody's laughing and and you have no chance to win anymore. So long story short, to get back to your answer, which was a great question, I'm just sad. Yeah. Terribly sad.
I get it. I totally understand. I mean, as a fan, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I want the Knicks to have a player like that, obviously, but a lot of Knicks fans will be kind of wishy-washy when the team doesn't get to where you think they're going to go, and then a lot of fans are going to be off the bandwagon. I just feel like teams do it all the time. They sign these players to long contracts and they go out and shop them, and and no one says anything about that. That's just a part of the business. So I feel like this is something that the players are kind of taking advantage of. But I do think there's a lockout looming. It's coming. I think they're going to try to want some of that power back, the owners.
Well, it's crazy. What power do they not have though? The player. That's what's something that we can talk about for hours. I think. Like, what are the players upset about? As if you compare them, the NBA players to any other league out there, they have the most power. Maybe baseball is close, but
I was talking about
what are they
owners.
looking for?
The
owners.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
they're
that
gonna feel like the players have too much, and
right.
I think the league should go to a hard salary cap. Get rid of max contracts and go to a hard salary cap. I think that would do a lot to kind of improve the parity in the league. Get rid of some of these super teams, and keep players under contract for longer terms. And look at hockey. I mean, hockey, they got a hard salary cap. You see players under contract for 10 years. They play 10, 12, 15 seasons in a particular town. I think that'll do a really good thing for the league and break up some of these super teams that are forming and the friendships and all this nonsense we have going on. But that's just
expansion teams coming. Maybe that'll change. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I think, the problem is the toothpaste out of the tube, and to get it back in is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Monkey's out of the bottle.
That. Yeah, man. That's going to be so hard to change. And then also, and I don't know this specifically super well, but the amount of money that is being made from TV deals that is getting out there, like,
they don't care.
To pull some of that back is going to be very tough, but it will make for possibly depressed fans like us if we can't watch. But I'm with you. It's going to be a struggle, and it's going to be one where I could see games missed. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Josh, what do you think the Nets are going to do this offseason? Do you think that they're going to trade Kyrie? Do you tell Kyrie to stick it, or are they going to trade Durant? Are they going to just try to run it back? What do you think is going to happen?
I think Durant is a little bit more unknown than Kyrie. I think Kyrie's going to be a net next season. I just think that he is. I think that the market, once he's seen the market kind of dried up for him, no team really wants Kyrie on their roster. He's only, under contract for one more year. I think they're going to keep Kyrie. I think KD is the real wild card, because we don't know what the market is for him at this current point in time. And I think once that domino falls, the entire league is going to change. And I don't want to see him go to another super team like Phoenix. If he goes there with Booker and Chris, just the league is done. Like, it's over. It's over. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be them and the Warriors for the next couple of years. And I think they'll have a bigger edge over the Warriors when you look at Booker's age and things like that. So I don't know about KD. I think Kyrie definitely will be a net next season, but KD is the one I really can't call. So, but I think even with KD and Kyrie, if they have KD and Kyrie intact with the current roster they have, I think they get to a second round, even the conference finals in the Eastern Conference. I think they're still that talented. Without KD, I think they get first round, maybe a second.
Yeah, the roster's good enough. I mean, you add Joe Harris back. It's a team that they've gotten depth, which Net fans haven't even been able to talk about, with like TJ Warren and Royce O'Neal, and got them players that are younger, more athletic, can score, defend better than the James Johnsons of the world, and Paul Millsap that was washed. But those are conversations Nets fans haven't even been able to have, like the boring ones we were hoping, because of all the nonsense that has happened. Josh, aka Uncle Foolio, tell the world where people can find you, the best places on social media, and then please promote the hell out of your show, because I know it's a great one, and I know it's a great platform and place for Knicks fans and for Net fans too. But let the world know where people can find you and listen to your great content.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Well, I'm on Twitter, Uncle Foolio. you'll know it's me because I'll be in the Navy uniform. I'll be in my, standing at attention in my Navy uniform. So I am an active duty in the Navy, by the way. Currently going to
service.
a Navy function tomorrow. That's why I shaved and look all, like my youth.
You don't want to get beat up. Yeah. Get lined up, right? Yeah.
Pretty much. Uncle Foolio on Twitter. You can find me there. I have most of my controversial takes on there. If you want to watch my podcast, I'm on the Nothing But Knicks channel on YouTube. And the name of the show is called The Kontroversy. If you want to hear controversial opinions that you don't necessarily hear from Knicks fans all the time, something that's a little bit of dissension, so to speak, come check me out. I have guests on there. I did a show with Alex a few weeks ago. I think that was
your best one. Yeah, no.
It was great. We were going back and forth, but I have a lot of content creators come on and I, go ahead and promote their shows. I love doing that because I love what you guys do. So that's the reason why I want to have Alex on. And someday you as well, Mike, come on there. But I just, love debating and discussing issues that and looking at opinions that are not necessarily popular. So that's just my niche in the content creator community. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Again, as Alex alluded to, thank you for your service and best of luck for everything you're doing this week as people are watching this. I would love to do it. I love talking about the Nets. I do have this sick, weird fantasies where I enjoy talking Knicks with Knicks fans. It's like a weird thing of mine that I've now gotten into, like Knicks spaces. It's like a weird thing of mine. So I'm all about that. Last question. I'll make it quick. I'm really curious to see this. What is the one thing Alex said on Twitter that got you more angry from a Knicks take perspective than anything he's ever done? What's the one you heard and you were just like, is this guy did he really just put that on the internet and hasn't deleted it yet?
Wow.
Maybe
question,
that's
so many. But listen, Alex is only right 10% of the time. He's wrong 90% of the time. So I'll just leave it at that. But Alex is my guy. We go back and forth all the time.
It's all love, yeah.
It's all love, but he's always wrong 90% of the time.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for that.
Thank you again for coming on.
No problem, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, aka Uncle Foolio, for joining us here on Bad Weather Fans. Again, check out the link in the show notes if you want to hear Alex on Uncle Foolio's podcast. Good stuff with him. This has been Bad Weather Fans, episode 128. And Alex, the idea that was brainstormed by us on episode 127 will happen soon. Don't know quite the details yet, but I'm excited about that just as much as I am.
Explain the idea to the people that don't remember.
It's I got worried saying it last time that someone's going to take the idea.
Oh,
basically, we are going to do reverse day with topics, and we are going to we will prove the point that any sports topic can be debated and talked about, and it's why all of it's just so stupid, but it's so much fun. And keep watching.
It's like law school. We'll put it that way. It's a law school episode.
The law school episode. I like that. Debate team episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to get an A, and you're going to get a C-.
Probably. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Bad Weather Fans, episode 128. Download, subscribe, follow, watch on YouTube. 2 thumbs up. Tweet us at Nick Central, at Mike Delivers Pod. Show us where you're watching the video. We always greatly appreciate all of that. Thank you again to Uncle Foolio for joining us on this episode. This has been Bad Weather Fans, episode 128. Alex, good night. Enjoy the rest of your week. Respect the Kittles jersey.
Yeah, nice Kittles jersey. And promo code BWF on DolanJTrump.com. Talk to you soon.